Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're beginning the third chapter of the second canto. Chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. Text number 1. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Evam mitanda. Excuse me, I need my glasses. Evamitan nigata. Yes. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Evamitan nigatam. Prishtavan yad bhavan mama. Nrinam yan mrityamananam. Manusheshu manishinam. Sri Sukha Uvacha Evam Mitan Nigatam. Sorry, I've got that wrong. Sri Sukha Uvacha Evam Mitan Nigat. Oh, I got that wrong. Evam Mitan Nigaditam. Yes. Evam Mitan Nigaditam. Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama. Nrinam yan mriyamananam manusheshu manishinam. Word for word. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Sri Sukadeva said, Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Evam, so, etat, all these, nigaditam, answered, Prishtavan, as you inquired, yat, what? Bhavan, your good self, mama, unto me, Rinam, of the human being, yat, one, Mriyamananam, on the threshold of death, Manusheshu, amongst the human beings, Manishinam, of the intelligent men. Translation. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death. So I have answered you. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. Would somebody like to read the purport? Please, come on, somebody read.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Thank you.
In human society all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of spirit soul. Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, for they identify themselves with the gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not in fact. They may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society. But one should know definitely that unless one inquires from his own self beyond the body and mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Therefore, out of thousands and thousands of men, one may inquire about his spiritual self and thus consult the revealed scriptures like Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with a realized spiritual master, he cannot actually realize the real nature of self, etc. And out of thousands and hundreds of thousands of men, someone may know what Lord Krishna is in fact. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 20.122 to 123, it is said that Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, prepared the Vedic script literatures in the incarnation of Vyasadeva for reading by the intelligent class of men in a human society which is almost totally forgetful of the genuine relation with Krishna. Even such an intelligent class of men may be forgetful in their relation with the Lord. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is therefore a revival of the lost relation. This revival is possible in the human form of life, which is obtained only out of the evolutionary cycle of 8,400,000 species of life. The intelligent class of human being must take a serious note of this opportunity. Not all human beings are intelligent, so the importance of human life is not always understood. Therefore, Manishinam, meaning thoughtful, is particularly used here. Manishinam, person like Maharaj Parikshit, must therefore take to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and fully engage himself in devotional service, hearing, chanting, etc., of the holy name and pastimes of the Lord, which are all Hari Kathamrita. This action is specially recommended when one is preparing for death. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, first of all, we can see that in the purport, Śrīla Prabhupāda is referring to the verse from the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschim mam veti tattvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and out of many thousands, hundreds of thousands of men who have attained some kind of perfection, hardly one knows Krishna in truth. Knowledge of Krishna is the most confidential of all things, and it is not readily available because most people have no desire to know what is the truth of their existence. But this purport shows us that a very important consideration which turns a person towards wanting to know more than materialistic knowledge is the reality of death. Actually, we see here, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, well, you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. He begins by saying that this is a glorious question. He begins his response by saying this is a glorious question because death is the really puzzling thing for the living being in the human form of life, because nobody wants death. Nobody wants to die. And it's a great mystery of why does this exist? This is a great challenge to the evolutionists and the materialists too, because they can't explain, why do we die? Why do we have to die? We don't want to, but we have to. And what does the last line of the purport say? This action of engaging in devotional service is especially recommended when one is preparing for death. I think I mentioned the other day in another class that Prabhupada gives a lecture on this question at the end of the first canto, this question by Parikshit Maharaj of what should one do when he is on the threshold of death. And Prabhupada begins the lecture by saying, so Parikshit Maharaj is asking, what should one do when he is on the threshold of death? And then he says, after a short pause, he says very strongly, and who is not on the threshold of death? Because death is never a part of our life plan. whether it comes quickly or whether it comes suddenly, quickly, or slowly. Death is not a part of our life plan, but it's an inevitable reality that faces everyone. And this is what makes a person very mindful, very deep thinking about things, because it's a perplexing thing. Why? That question keeps coming up. Why death? Why do we have to die? I don't want to die, but this is somehow or another forced upon me. I'm always impressed when I think about the book Śrīla Prabhupāda wrote called Beyond Birth and Death. I mean, the first time I encountered that title, it was very, it created a pause in me. I had to think, beyond birth and death? What does that mean? Beyond birth and death? And that is a major question with seriously seeking people. What is there beyond but death? Is there anything beyond death? Because it's not satisfactory to an intelligent person to think, well, that's it. You're born, you live, and you die. Is that all there is? Is that it? Is that all there is to my life? That I didn't exist? I come into existence and then I cease to exist. And before that, in the course of my life, I learned that there's a huge amount of time has transpired from some beginning of creation in the past before I came into existence. And I understand that things will exist way beyond the time that I die, but that all that I am is this little blip, birth, death, it's all over. It can't be like that. It cannot be like that. There's got to be more than this. And this is what leads one into questions that can only be answered by transcendentalists, by people who are established in transcendental knowledge. In the common life that we live now, there's no transcendental knowledge being imparted to us. No sense that there is anything transcendental. Transcendental is an interesting word. It comes with two other words: ascend, descend, and transcend. Sendo, sendare is the Latin root, which means to climb. So ascend means to climb up, descend means to climb down, ascend means to climb across. In the material world, we are overwhelmed by the vastness of this universe we live in. And there's all kinds of speculation about has the universe existed forever? Or if it came into existence, how did it come into existence? What did it come into existence from? And then we have the misconception that this is unlimited, that this one universe that we live in is unlimited. But actually, we learn from the Vedic literature that there are trillions and countless numbers of universes within what is called the material world. So just being trapped in one little universe, what to speak of being within something which is beyond our comprehension and our ability to get to the end of, is very overwhelming for us. And with a poor fund of knowledge, we're faced with the apparent reality that this is all there is, that this is all there is. But transcendental knowledge enables us to climb across all of these obstacles of ignorance and come to the end of the material world. There's that beautiful verse that explains that for one who is taken to the lotus feet of the Lord, taken shelter of devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, the whole material existence shrinks down to the size of the water within the footprint of a calf, and you can just step over it very, very easily. But until and unless that happens in a person's life, then Devi Yesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Duratyaya. We are under the control of the three modes of material nature, and we have no sense of anything beyond this. So the search begins actually with this question about, why do I have to die? Why do I have to die? And as we've been discussing in great detail in the previous chapter, the second half of the previous chapter, the Lord is the constant companion of the living entity in his sojourn in the material world. And he's observing everything that we are thinking and everything that we are desiring. So when the dissatisfaction with the frustrations of the perplexities of material life, I make so many plans and I set off to try to fulfill those plans, and everything just goes to pieces. And I thought, why? Why does this happen? And as the purport, Prabhupada says very, very clearly in the purport, where is that? They may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society. These are the people, these are us, people like us, who are in the bodily conception of life. People may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society, but one should know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Total failures, total waste of time. An intelligent person gets a sense of that in the face of the reality of death, because the nature of the way we are trained to live is to have a better future, prepare ourselves for a better situation in the future. And we spend our whole life preparing for that better future, doing things that we think we need to do to make a future better. But somewhere in that future, death will come and take everything away. So the futility of that is something which has to occur in our minds. The futility of all of this struggle for improving ourselves materially simply ends in death, and you lose everything, or you vanish, or you cease to exist. There's got to be more than this. There's got to be more than this. So in this way, if this becomes a consistent and serious consideration, then Krishna, as Super Soul within our hearts, will guide us eventually to the lotus feet of a pure devotee of the Lord. Along the way, we'll be tested with so many incomplete conceptions. But if we are really serious to know what is the truth of my existence, what is the truth, what is the purpose of my existence, why do I exist anyway, why does anything exist, and then we will eventually be guided by the Lord to the lotus feet of a pure devotee of the Lord. then we can hear the truth of our existence. And that's very clearly stated in the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 34 and 35, we mentioned the other day. Tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadashana. Yajyatva na punamoham evam jasyasi pandava yena bhutyani sheshani drakshyasyatman yatomai. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. These self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. We've totally forgotten the reality of our existence. And we're running around in the material world, running around in the external world. Hey, look at me, how wonderful I am. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. Just running around from one ridiculous situation to another. All ridiculous because they're all based on the false premise that this is me. This mind and this body, this is me. So it is only by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord that we can actually come out of this illusion. It says that one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. We are particularly fortunate at this particular era in human society that the spiritual master has approached us. It's a great mercy. It's a great, great mercy that Śrīla Prabhupāda came. If not for him, then nobody else would have done what he did. People have followed in the slipstream of what Śrīla Prabhupāda did and tried to, in many ways, minimize what he did. Or take advantage of what he did to draw attention to themselves. But Śrīla Prabhupada never tried to draw attention to himself. He always tried to draw our attention back to where it should be, and that is on the lotus feet of the Lord and the devotional service of the Lord. So we're very, very fortunate people. Very fortunate, actually. I find it over the years of practicing Krishna consciousness, how amazing it is. And it continues to amaze me that in the middle of my total illusion and perplexity, suddenly Srimad Bhagavatam appeared. Just suddenly appeared. I was perplexed. I was totally perplexed. And the real perplexity, as I've been saying, the real perplexity is that all of this endeavor to make some progress materially just seems so futile because of the specter of death that hangs over everything. Hangs over everything. And then suddenly, there was pure knowledge. There was something that really made sense. That's the wonderful thing about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is they make complete and lucid sense. They give completely lucid and sensible answers to any question that you have about the nature of life, the purpose of life, the nature of our existence. Why, like I said, why do we exist? That's such an important question. Why do I exist anyway? Why am I here? Why does anything exist? Why is this here that I'm present in? These questions are not answered. They're not answered by going to mundane institutions of so-called education. It's just not done. Therefore, we live in a very violent society when it comes down to the correct understanding of this. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in verses 8 to 12, where Krishna outlines what he explains to be all the principles of knowledge. One of the principles is ahimsa, and Prabhupada makes a very powerful statement about ahimsa. I'll just find that and read it to you. Very important point that Śrīla Prabhupāda makes in his definition of what is ahimsa. And then when I need to find it, I can't find it. Isn't that typical? Ahimsa, simplicity, non-violence. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material conception of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. This is non-violence. There's another point where Krishna mentions non-violence, and that is in. Can somebody help me here? I can't quite remember where the other reference is, where Krishna says non-violence. Anyway, in the purport to that, Śrīla Prabhupāda says it is violence to actually create confusion in somebody's mind. And mundane education, so-called mundane education, which doesn't reveal the purpose of life, creates confusion in the mind. And as a result of that, we can't make spiritual advancement. We need clear, precise knowledge. And that is what Krishna begins giving Arjuna right from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Clear and precise knowledge, lucid information that enables us to make choices that we can never make without that knowledge. In material life, basically, you're choosing which poison to take. That's no choice at all. How would you like to die? I remember a few years ago, there was a movie that was around. It was called A Million Ways to Die in the West. There's so many ways that you can die. The Merch Book of Diseases, huge volume, thick like this, and it's not written across the page, it's written in columns, describing all the different diseases that are known to man that can kill you. And you have no choice. You have no choice. It's only a matter of time, and you're going to die. So this opens the door. This is the key. This is the key that opens the door. And it only comes when one hears from a pure devotee of the Lord. And the encounter with a pure devotee of the Lord is so very, very rare in our sojourn in the material world. We don't know how long we've been here. We have no idea. of the length of time that we've been in the material world, going through one creation after another, countless lifetimes. And now here in this lifetime, by the inconceivable mercy of the Lord, we have received the mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord. Not to be taken lightly, not to be taken lightly in any way, shape, or form. Therefore, we need a very serious sangha of devotees in our lives, because even though we have come in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord, even though we have this knowledge, we're still in Durgadam. We're still in the material world. And the material world doesn't cease to be the material world just because we become devotees of the Lord or become servants of a devotee of the Lord. The material energy is relentless in its onslaught. That's a phrase Prabhupada uses very often. The relentless onslaught of the material energy to distract us, to cause us to become despairing, hopeless, disappointed, discouraged, all those dis-words, to take our focus away from this knowledge, to drag us back into the illusory conception of what we are. So it's very, very important that we have this international society of devotees that we can enter into and find shelter in the association of the devotees. And here, over and over again, Prabhupada says, why do you come every day? I'm not saying anything any different. I say the same thing every day. Why do you come? And he says, hear these hackneyed words. Hackneyed words. He says, because you want to hear it, because it makes sense to you, and because it touches something within you. It touches you. It reawakens you every day. Reawakens you every day to the truth of your existence. The truth of your existence. So this hearing process can never be underestimated. Never be. And if you find yourself getting bored with it, then you have to look at, well, where is my consciousness actually going at the moment? And pretty soon you realize, oh, I'm being very distracted by Maya. Some old attachment that I have is drawing me back. So there needs to be constant vigilance on this path. We go till 8:30 today? Yes? Can somebody answer me? Jayant?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes? We go, oh,
Until
Vinod.
8:30.
Jayanti and Vinod. Oh, you're Vinod, who I met yesterday. Yes, sorry. So we go till 8:30. I think I'll open up for any questions or reflections from anybody about this subject matter. Does anybody have any questions or any personal reflections that they'd like to share with us?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. No. Sakira Prabhu, you go ahead.
You go, please. You go ahead.
Okay, I was just thinking, how this verse is all about, and how you spoke all about questions in life, and how important it is to have. The quest begins with the question, why do I have to die, and what is the reality of existence? And those questions are very important in life. Personally, I've seen all of Śrīla Prabhupada's disciples having that inner calling at some stage or the other. Personally, I have never had that calling where I have suddenly had a question about life. Somehow, how the purport mentions about the causeless mercy, I think I'm here because of that causeless mercy. There is no other way I would have been here, because I have never had a question, why am I here? What is going to happen to me? Why are there frustrations? Because I don't know, since childhood have been trained in a way that whatever happens, we take it, we accept that, and we continue doing our work. So never had those sort of curiosities in life. Sometimes when I read Śrīla Prabhupāda's purports, sometimes when I read, I'll have little questions here and there, but never those deep, deep questions. Probably I'm just reflecting on it right now, and I'm thinking maybe I'm one of the very less intelligent person who doesn't have those sort of inquiries in life.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. But my reflection to that is that you took the birth that you took in the pious family that you took your birth in, because you were probably asking those kind of questions in a previous life. And acting in a way which brought you to the position where you had a secure situation in your life. But then, because the Lord's in your heart anyway, he reawakened you to your attraction to him and to yoga. So it's not necessarily the case that I'm making. I'm making that case because I come from a much more degraded background. My position in the yoga ladder is, well, probably I wasn't even on the bottom rung, but I did have those questions because I was very frustrated with material life. Prabhupada used to stress to us a lot that nothing happens by accident. So you don't take your birth in a family from Bharat by accident. There's a lot has gone on in previous lives to bring you to that position. And then the overriding factor in all of this is that even though you didn't have that level of concern, still you had what do they say? What did Prabhupada say? A good credit of pious background, a good credit that most likely previous activity within bhakti, and therefore some attraction to the yoga principles. And then Krishna in the heart, he's very opportunistic. Krishna will take any opportunity to pull you in to devotional service. So how that actually precipitated for you is probably a very interesting story. It didn't necessarily arise from the kind of considerations that I've been talking about. But as I say, that's only because you're a more elevated person in the first place. No, I'm not exaggerating or flattering you. Srila Prabhupada made the point. You take any Indian and scratch the surface, and underneath there's a bhakta. It's being covered, especially by the age of Kali, and especially everyone is contaminated to some degree by impersonalism and voidism. But it doesn't take much to get Indian people excited and activated in devotional service, because there's a background of it. There's a cultural background of it that you've been born into. The problem is, in the age of Kali now, everything's becoming rapidly materialistic, and everything is being covered over very quickly. That's the importance of the Sankirtan movement, to propagate this all over the world. And as Lord Chaitanya says, this is the duty of anyone taking their birth in an Indian family. You don't necessarily have to go through all the kind of angst that I was talking about. I can talk about it a lot because I went through it. But one thing you can understand in terms of propagating Krishna consciousness outside of the Indian community is that a pretty sure indication that a person will be open to our philosophy is this consideration about death. But bear in mind also, as Prabhupada explains in the purport to Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 17, Shrinvatan Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Pridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. That Krishna is very anxious for us to come back to him. He wants us to come back to him more than we could ever desire. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, actually, there are very few men, very few people who want to go back to Godhead. He said, most people have no inclination for this at all, especially now in this grossly materialistic age. People's concern is to ignore death, put it aside, and just, or even if it's there, even if you accept, yes, I have to die, well, make the most of every moment you have. Enjoy your senses to the greatest extent possible till you can't do it anymore, and then die. And now you have the situation in Western society where they have assisted dying becoming legal, where you've had a blast, you've engaged in sense gratification to the fullest extent that you possibly can, until the point where your body has become so sick and diseased, then you can just say, oh, well, now I'll die. Give me the medicine and I'll die. Just because that's it. So there's a very special responsibility being an Indian, or having taken birth amongst Indian people. Human birth is very rarely achieved in any situation in 400,000 different species of life. But you consider the fact that where does Krishna appear? Where does Lord Ram appear? Where does Lord Chaitanya appear in this universe, on this planet? And where on this planet? In Siberia? In Terra del Fuego at the bottom of South America? In Tasmania? In India? In India. This is such an important place. The place that is now called India. And in this place we have the dhams, Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur Dham, so many dhams, Rishikesh, Hardwar, so many. These are not fabricated places, holy places. These are the holy places in the universe. And the Earth planet used to hold a great attraction for the demigods. It still does because of the Sankirtan Yoga, but they take their birth. The demigods are taking their birth in this Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. Whereas they used to physically appear here, and they had places where they engaged in pastimes and activities, and they had followers amongst different people all over the world. But at the core of it all, the birth in Bharat Bhumi is actually the most auspicious birth in the entire universe. And you think, well, me? Why me? Well, you don't know the past, but what you can know is the present and how you can use your future in such a way that everything you do will be to your benefit and to the benefit of everyone you meet. And you become very, very dear to Lord Chaitanya as a result of that. So don't worry that you didn't have all the angst that I was talking about, but know that you will come across that kind of questioning amongst people in the Western world. And now the Western world also means India. Actually, I was talking to one young woman in her 30s, Indian woman, who's now a practicing devotee, happily married. But what she'd been through up to the point where I met her was so shocking to me, so shocking to me. When I lived in India in 1975, 76, 77, if you saw a young girl in jeans, that was so shocking. That was what? You never saw that. But if you did, it was very shocking. In the local market where the temple was in Lajpat Nagar in Delhi in 1977, in that local market, at one point they opened a liquor shop. And every day for months, there was a group of women there protesting it. And you don't see that now in India. You don't see that at all. And what that young woman divulged to me about what she'd been through just was so shocking to me. And I said to her, my goodness, this is more West than the West. And she said, yes, that's what it is. So things are rapidly degenerating everywhere due to the progress of Kali Yuga. So you're going to come across what I've been talking about in the people that you meet in your preaching more and more as time goes by.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you all for taking to devotional service. Lord Chaitanya has a plan. Like I say to everyone from the Indian community, like what I was saying in my talk, we make materialistically, we're always looking to create a better future for ourselves. So you've all immigrated to Australia for that. I'm the descendant of immigrants. I think I've said this a few times in talks recently. Everyone in Australia is an immigrant. There's a large body of evidence that even the Aboriginal people are originally immigrants here. When my family emigrated to Australia in 1833, they came here to make a better life. But right now, in terms of the Indian diaspora, everywhere I go in New Zealand, Australia, Far East, Malaysia, Fiji, and then you go into South Africa, Canada, United States, England. There's a huge movement occurring within the Indian diaspora of people such as yourselves becoming devotees of the Lord. This is an unfolding plan. Lord Chaitanya had a plan. You had a plan. Like Prabhupada used to say, I've got my plan, you've got your plan, and Krishna's got his plan. And somehow or another, Krishna takes care of all of our plans in the fulfillment of his plan. So you've all come to the West. You've all come to Australia. From wherever I go, any home I go to, I see you're all doing very well here. You've got a very good life. You've got a currency exchange running very high, so you're able to give support to your family in India. All of that has been taken care of. But in the meantime, Lord Chaitanya has brought you into his movement. This is a very important thing. And your children are now involved in this movement, and their children will be involved, and so on and so forth. It's all a part of an unfolding plan. Saki Roy, you had a reflection or a question? Saki Roy Prabhu?
Mine was more of a devil's advocate question. Your whole class sounded like it was a doom and gloom in the material world, which it is, of course. But then, it might make someone depressing also to hear the truth. Was a solution.
Say that again, the last bit.
It might all sound like a doom and gloom, and it might make someone depressed. What is the solution?
Yeah. Well, the solution is there's only one solution, and that is we somehow or another come in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord and hear the truth. And then we can make the choice to act on that. Because the fact is, without that, it is all doom and gloom. Dukkha layam ashashvatam. No point gilding the lily. That's the situation in the material world. There is no happiness here. There is no permanent situation. Prabhupada, I was just listening to a lecture yesterday who was saying, all right, you may say, all right, I'll adjust the miseries, but I'll continue to live here because I've got a good life here. But then he says, no, sir, that's not possible. You may make all kinds of adjustments for to counteract the miseries of life, but you won't be allowed to stay here anyway. It's temporary. Death will come. So therefore, I think I covered that in the lecture also. One has to be able to shift one's conception of oneself to existing beyond birth and death. And that is only possible by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord. Until and unless that happens, it is doom and gloom. Therefore, it behooves us, we are obliged to become compassionate for the suffering condition of the fallen souls. Krishna ends his instruction about all the different forms of yoga that he's outlining from chapter 2 through chapter 6. He ends his instruction on that in verse number 32 with the conclusion that atmapamyena savatra samam pasyati yorjuna sukham va yadiva dukam sayogi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. I'll just read the purport to that. We got time? Or we're getting a bit late, but it's a short purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being. the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. That is verse 529 embedded in the purport there. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold miseries due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servant of the Lord. Nacha tasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakuttamaha. Bhagavad Gita 1869. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. We need to be very, 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 very aware that it is only by mercy that this has happened in our lives. This is an intervention in our lives by the Lord. Otherwise, we are hopelessly addicted to sense gratification, which leads to the repetition of birth and death in the material world. This is the stark reality. The stark reality is that by the causeless mercy of the Lord, somehow or another, our heads have been turned, and we're seeing something else now. And the reality is, having once seen it, you can't unsee it. There's something in the logo, in the Jetstar logo, that you don't see until somebody points it out to you. And that is between the T and the star, there's a white patch there that forms an arrow. But you don't see that because you hear Jetstar, so you see Jetstar. But when you see that there's that arrow joining jet to the star, you can't not see it anymore. So once you've seen the truth, once your eyes have been opened by the causeless mercy of the Lord in his representative, the spiritual master, then you can't not see. But what you see is that all this doom and gloom, it's all actually an illusion. It's got nothing to do with me. I am something very different. And because we are all locked towards the future, then I can choose a destination that I had no idea of before, but which in reality I'd just forgotten about. Hare Krishna. I think Sakyaroy had to go. Sakyaroy left us. Didn't hear the full. Anyway, that's our time up. Right on 8:30 as far as I can see. Vanchakalpa Triviyascha Kripasindo Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you all so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare
I
Krishna.
hope I see you all today at the temple.
Yes,
Hare,
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare,
Thank you so much, Prabhu Krishna.
Hare,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I'll close the meeting now, Prabhu.
Thank you. Haribol.